Hey friends, how you doing? You know, I've been posting all these Isofarian guard pictures for months now, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to show you what the game is and why I keep coming back to playing it. So I've got my favorite '80s music on the speaker, and got my favorite coffee cup with my AeroPress. So let's take a look. I think you might find it fun. So obviously, there is a lot here, and in the round-to-round type playing style, you really aren't using a lot of this stuff, but there's just so many components, but they all sort of congeal together. And Isofarian Guard is basically like a computer RPG given physical form as a board game, and it's got 5 campaigns. I'm in the middle of campaign 2, and everything takes place over this map here. You can see my characters way up there because that's where they go. There's a quest markers. There's my resave point. So if I die in a mission, I return to that location. And there's other objects about. And also somewhere around here, you can't see it, there's my boat up there. Because I have a boat, I can sail up and down the waterways. At least if I can get to the boat. So generally speaking, on your, let's call it a turn, you move around the board until you either... well, I have a skazillion of these books here, including one that's the actual campaign book for this particular campaign, which also has audio, so I can play an app that plays a fully acted audio thing, which is really quite nice. You've got a tech tree for each character, and you always have 2 characters. This is a 1 or 2 player game. I have an index for each city, which if I stop at the cities, you'll see has things like a place to buy stuff, quests, an inn, and also blacksmiths that I can craft better equipment for my characters for. And as you can see, we've got 2 characters. This is Catherine, and they actually have 2 boards. One, this is her equipment board, so you can see her basic weapon and her armor. She also has a magic ring, because who doesn't have magic rings? And the game uses an action cube system because probably 75% of the game is getting into a fight and having it. Not unlike, say, playing Final Fantasy or something like that. So each character has their own unique board full of powers. And most characters, in fact all characters really, but there's different mechanics, I'm not going to go into that, have these cards that are either primary or secondary, require some of these cubes we just looked at over here. You have to spend them to use them, and you also need chips from your bag, because ultimately, this game is a bag building game. And on a player's turn, when we're in a combat, you're going to reach in and draw out a number of cubes chips equal to the number of cubes in their bag. And with the exception of their black chips, so I'm making a mess here. So that green chip is 1 bonus chip that was added to the bag, which doesn't count towards the limit of drawing 3. So adding green chips to your bag, which are temporary one-time use chips that then go back into this collection here, as opposed to purple chips, which are permanent ones, or at least semi-permanent because they can be removed. And then the player can then spend these. So if you look at a power, you'll see that, for example, Catherine's field note power here requires 2 action cubes, and it requires me to spend 2 sword chips, which I would then put on it, and then it adds basically a -1 to the defense of all enemies out there when we're in a fight. So I would take a card. In this case, I would need 2 swords, but I don't have 2 swords, but I have a sword, and 2 of shields can be swapped in place for sword and vice versa, and they would cap that, and then I'd move these tokens to the exhausted phase, and then I would trigger the power. And that's really 75% of the game, if I'm honest, because a lot of it is individual character builds and fights. They're also, due to the story content of the game, they're what are the Isofarian Guard members all have these powers. They're stone-bound is what they're called because of the stone-bound saga, which gives them these special powers. And this is just they found one of the speaking stones, and that allows you on your turn to put this up here, and basically it can only work every 2 turns depending on when you trigger it, and gives you a special ability that usually harmonizes with the other character, because this is Yuri, who is the young hothead who comes with double axes and a lack of self-confidence that he makes up with bluster. It's all in part of the story. And then we compare against the bad guys who have a health, an attack, a defense, and their own AI deck. So this is the highly unpleasant 2-Money Raider, he's a 3-star character, and we're level chapter 2 characters, so he's basically strong for us, and he happens to be fighting in 2. You can have up to 4 characters, and those characters will attack in their turn. So usually the way it works is you choose one of the 2 characters, play them out, and then from there, the enemies get an attack, unless you were ambushed, in which case the enemies get to go first for a free turn. Every character has their own attack, strength, health. So, for example, if I were to start the round with Yuri, Yuri has 2 action cubes, so I'd go to the bag, give it a good mix, and then draw out until I have 2 black chips. Now, unfortunately, Yuri got poisoned on a previous encounter, and I haven't gotten rid of those, so he's going to take a point of damage just for drawing this poison chip, because giant spiders are terrible, kids. And there's a green chip, which is a one-time, but it also doesn't count towards my thing, so it's kind of a good draw. And so this is actually 2 black chips, so that would finish, and then I would resolve the chips. So the purple one goes here, and then I reduce Yuri's health, which should be at 20, down to 19, which sucks. Because he's going to keep taking that poison until I can find a way to get rid of it. And then I have these 3 chips and Yuri's powers. And Yuri's, basically, he's a glass cannon. He has no real great defense, but he is really good on offense. But unfortunately, he keeps drawing enemy attacks. So in this case, with a sword and a shield, Yuri's special power is, which can be seen here under intensity, is he gets these green cubes, which get him more action cubes. They're temporary cubes, but they're only for the fight. And then he can spend in almost all his powers a surge ability where he spends that green cube to make the attack better. So it always makes sense to get him that first, so I would put this here. Unfortunately, it costs 2 action cubes, which is hella expensive because he's only got the 2. But now he gets this green cube, which we put there, and now he has 1 more cube. He also has a special power. His Speaking Stone allows him to access one of his abilities for no cube cost, so he basically doesn't have to pay his action cubes, but he still has to pay his chips, which, since he starts with so few action cubes, is a big deal. And so we have a sword and a shield left, but we don't have 2 cubes. So what instead we do is we activate his special power, which says we don't need to spend any cubes. Then we take this sword and this shield chip and place it here. And at the end of the round, these are going to flip over to their other side because we've used them. And this one specifically says that, I'm sorry about the shiny light, we can attack for +1, and then we can add 2 swords to my ally's bag. And if we spend the green surge cube, which we will, we can add 2 sword cubes or sword chips to Yuri's bag, and then we flip one of his other cards. So we spend the chip. Yuri has an attack of 5, so he's going to make an attack of 6. And we're just going to attack the first dude in line, because why wouldn't we? So that's a 6, subtracting 3 from it, so he's going to take 3 points of damage. So I go 1, 2, 3. And then from there, Yuri, again, gets to add sword chips to people's bags. So we'll grab, I don't know why those are there. Why are they there? I think I might have put them in the wrong place for some reason. So 2 chips to Catherine. And then 2 chips to Yuri, and this probably goes in Yuri's bag. I'm going to double check that one from there. And then he gets to flip a non-active card, because the secondaries are usually more powerful, but you have to use them. I happen to know that I want to switch to Yuri's axe throw ability, because you can play with these characters a lot, which allows him to basically do 2 regular attacks, and he can attack anywhere, which isn't as important in this fight because we've only got position 1 and 2, but there are a position 3 and 4 of the boards beneath there. You can sort of see them hiding there. And those collectively, the guys in the back rank, just like in a traditional JRPG, CRPG, can't be attacked. And so, you basically go through it and then do the same thing with the other players' turns, and then you have the monsters return, and then it's basically round and round until that battle's over. And that's pretty much how it works.